just wanted to point out a couple of things on this particular podcast that are unusual about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. Amber Heard is being pictured as the typical domestic violence victim who was in a relationship and was treated violently. Amber Heard claims she was even struck multiple times, different places, different times, and that her partner was a rich, powerful man, and when he would drink too much or take drugs, he would strike out violently. First thing I want to say is Johnny Depp had a history of alcohol and drugs for many years. Amber Heard was only married to Johnny Depp for 15 months, a year, and say almost a half. So it was a very short time. So she knew about his history of alcohol use and drug use when she met him. She dated him with that history, and she knew what kind of problems he was facing, and she knew that these addictions, from regular publicity or if she had done any investigation, she knew that these problems that he had, the problem of addiction, was very difficult to treat and often was not cured, but just tried to maintain a decent life without the use of drugs, and that was the goal in many therapies. Ms. Heard had her own problems. She was a very heavy alcohol drinker, in that she is described as drinking wine every day, and then she also has a history of mushrooms and other types of drugs, hallucinogenic drugs I'll call them. So she had her addictions, things that she didn't want to give up when she was married. So she was going to, at her own free will, go into a marriage with this man who she knew had these issues. Now, if she had been a smart woman, she would have investigated with addiction therapists what the level of his addiction was, what his addictions were to, how are they being treated, what's the success rate, what is the goal. Because I sense in the courtroom that their goal is that Mr. Depp never use any drugs, never use any cocaine, never use any psychedelics or wine again in the future, ever. That's their goal. Well, for most people, of course, that would not be really realistic, but it's an ambitious goal, and certainly would not be one that would be achieved quickly. This would be over a long period of time if you were trying to accomplish that goal. It doesn't seem to me that Amber did any investigation about Mr. Depp's health problems and his prognosis for these health problems. It also seems to me that she wasn't willing to change anything in her lifestyle in order to help Mr. Depp with his problems. If you are using wine yourself and your partner has an addiction to wine, you cannot go into the relationship drinking wine and bringing in around 7 friends who are also heavily drinking wine whenever they're around you and expect your partner to not be drinking wine. That's totally unrealistic. It would never be a therapeutic goal. You would be told immediately that that is going to be a failing situation. If you're drinking and ordering hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars of wine a month, it's impossible. It's impossible. You're just not going to have a therapeutic situation. And Mr. Depp will never get over a wine urge, that addiction to wine, that feeling when things are stressful or you want to go to sleep. Wine can do it. Take some wine, it'll make you feel sleepy. You'll get a nice rest. You'll get an alcoholic rest. It's not a restful rest, but it is, you're going to sleep, and it's better than being up all night or just having a totally restless night. Also, Miss Heard was not willing to give up her party drugs, and that is a different situation, which would also cause an addict to want to have his party drugs. His party drugs may not be the same as your party drugs, but when he sees Miss Heard and her friends using these drugs on a frequent basis, he's going to, of course, want to use whatever he likes to use for elevating his mood, a party drug. Or he may use it to calm him down. Whatever he uses it for, when he sees other people using it around him, that's what he's going to want to do. So she was a very poor partner for an addict. She had her own issues with drugs and wine, and I don't know what else she took, maybe some other types of pills. And then he had his problems, which were long-term, and he was not going to be able to become totally clean without having a partner who is totally clean. That is just agonizing to try to think of, that you're going to have a person go through total withdrawal and stay off all drugs in the future, while your partner that you see every day, they have a lot of leisure time. So you're seeing your partner drinking wine and taking pills and being with her friends and having a more party atmosphere. It's going to be very difficult and impossible for Mr. Depp to come down to a non-user. And this case seems to focus on his using drugs and alcohol. Well, that's what he was using before he met Miss Heard. He continued using it during their courtship. He continued using after they were married. So I kind of wipe out all of these issues of him using drugs. That's just part of who Johnny Depp was. She knew that. She accepted him with those problems when they were dating, and she accepted that she would marry a person who had these issues. I don't know how long she lived with Johnny Depp before they got married, but I'm sure that she knew that wine between the two of them was going to make them more argumentative. They were going to be a fighting couple. Kind of like Liz Taylor and Richard Burton, always fighting, but saying they're going to try to maintain this relationship no matter what. I don't like the way the court is using Johnny Depp's addiction as a weapon against him. I think it's a non-factor, and every time they say, well, did Mr. Depp have a glass of wine? Or did you see Mr. Depp take any drugs? Or so on and so forth. I think that is just trying to make the jury prejudiced against Mr. Depp for the fact that he has these addictions. It's considered very low life by most people. It's considered very negative as to your character by most people, and they are using it as a subconscious weapon against Johnny Depp just because he came in with these addictions, and of course they were still present throughout their marriage. Now, Amber Heard tries to present herself as a typical victim of domestic violence. Now, most of the cases of domestic violence that get recorded by the police department and that are studied are cases of average people. Average people to below average people. They're either in an average relationship with problems, or they're really poor with problems. A lot of times the women don't leave these domestic violence situations because they don't have the money to get out. They don't have anywhere to go. They have children. They don't want to leave children behind. Say the wife could escape the domestic violence, but she's afraid she'll have to leave her children behind, and she's afraid what's going to happen to them. and she's afraid she might not be able to rescue them. She's afraid that if she goes to a domestic violence shelter, that the man will find her and she will have problems or even more violence even at the domestic violence shelter. She may lose her job because of the man calling her work or waiting for her outside of her work to beat her up in the car or something. These are kind of the typical domestic violence situations that are studied and are recorded in police departments and studied in institutions. For the poor people, a lot of times people are frustrated by financial problems or other situational problems. Kids they have that they can't support, wife they have that they don't get along with and they can't get away from. They're both stuck in the same house, and so forth. So all of the statistics and history of domestic violence that we see really don't relate to Amber Heard. Amber Heard is very different. Her lifestyle was very different. She got into a marriage with a man with a lot of money. She had many people around her. In fact, when she got married, she was able to bring along all of her friends, her sister, her parents, I believe, were involved in the marriage. Everybody was there. She had a huge support team around her that could protect her, that could give her refuge, that could give her advice. And so she was not stuck in a marriage that she couldn't get out of. She could have easily gotten out of it. In fact, Amber Heard was traveling outside of her house every day. She was in the chauffeured car. She had guards around her. She had maids around her. She had a cook. She had at times had a butler. She had her job as a model. She had an agent. She had the people where she worked on the movie. She had tons of people around her, tons of supporting people, tons of people who were interested in her health and welfare. And all she had to do was let any one of these people know that her marriage was not good and that she was forced to record, as she said, this marriage because of who knows what. She could have easily left this relationship. In fact, when Johnny Depp tried to leave the area in which she was in, as we heard on recordings, she was always pulling him back. If he tried to leave the house, she was trying to pull him back in. Whatever, she was the one who was pulling Johnny Depp in order to continue an argument or to continue to have him in a stressful situation that he was trying to escape. He verbally was saying he wanted to go, and she would say, "Don't go, come here," grab his arm, and so forth, and try to pull him back in. In the house, we heard, and he testified, that he would try to escape her by hiding in bathrooms because those bathroom doors can be locked, and he would go into the bathroom, lock the door. Now, these aren't your typical bathroom that you might be thinking of. These are huge bathrooms, big rugs, big sinks, big everything, lots of room. It's like having another bedroom. And he would go into the bathroom, lay down, and go to sleep because he could get alone time. He could de-stress. He could relax without her pestering him. And even when he went into these bathrooms to relax, she would come and pester him at the door. She would be banging on the door and knocking on the door and so forth, trying to get him to come out of the bathroom. So she was very much an aggressor in this relationship, and he was trying to deal with his life, with his long-term addictions, with the changes that people wanted him to make, because he knew as an actor he was not supposed to be using these drugs, and I think he would have liked to abstain from these drugs at least as much as possible during the making of the movies. And there are ways that you can come off these drugs with the help of a physician and be compliant for the insurance required to make a movie. But none of this seemed to be explored. It seemed they wanted him to stay off the drugs, and they really didn't have any type of replacement therapy to help him get through the transition, or at least get him onto a legal system. So when Amber Heard is comparing herself to the average domestic violence victim, she is totally off stream. Amber had nothing but opportunity to leave her stressed, unhappy marriage and go off and either get a divorce or seek some separate time so they could resolve their problems or whatever. She had, as I said, she had butler, cook, housekeepers. She had security people. Johnny had security people. They had chauffeurs. They had a pilot. They had all the people that surrounded her at work when she was a model, when she was going out on auditions to be in various movies or pictures. Tons of people that she could have easily said, I want to leave. I think I'm not going to go home tonight. I think I'm going to go to a hotel. She had the money to go to a hotel. Any hotel in the world, she had the money to go to, and she had the means to get there. And they did not have kids to hold her back, so she was not under the stress and strain of, if I leave, my kids are going to be there and I'm worried about my kids. She didn't have that situation. So there were no excuses as to why she would stay, except the only thing Amber Heard did not want to leave was the money. She knew if she left Johnny Depp, she was leaving behind the money and the lifestyle she wanted, but she didn't want to spend it with Johnny Depp. Now, the first thing Johnny Depp should have known when he met Amber Heard, she was very pretty, but she was married to a woman. Now, being a lesbian is one thing, but when you go so far into lesbianism that you actually get married to a woman, that means you probably have some dislike for men as far as being in a relationship with one. Amber Heard did not want to be in a relationship with a man. That's why she was married to a woman, and that's why in the court they do not want anyone to bring up the fact that she had a wife before she married Johnny Depp, because it shows that Amber Heard was at some level disliking of Johnny Depp from the beginning. It would be like Johnny Depp going out and marrying Ellen DeGeneres. It's not that Ellen is a bad person, but she would be a horrible person for a male. She would be a horrible wife. And that's what Amber was. She was a horrible wife because she wanted to be married to a woman, and she was happy being married to a woman. Now, we never heard anything about Amber's relationship with her wife. Why did she leave that relationship? Were they fighting? A lot of lesbian fights are very, very horrific. Lesbians can be very, very brutal to each other, but we never had any mention as to what her relationship was with her wife before she met Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp wanted Amber Heard because of her beauty. He was totally enamored by her looks. He wanted her because she was younger than his wife and she was beautiful. His past wife was very, very beautiful still, but she had been there with him for years and they had, I believe, 2 children. So he wanted something younger and beautiful, and so he picked Amber Heard. Shows you, you have to investigate who you're getting married to. You can't just go out and pick people just because they have a beautiful face or a beautiful figure. You have to use some intelligence when you're picking your partner. These things do translate and come out in your marriage. Johnny Depp didn't do that. When he met this lesbian who was married, he decided he was going to marry her, and he thought his money and his popularity in the movies was going to be enough to make her be attracted to him. But Johnny Depp She had probably met many people like Johnny Depp over her lifetime, but she never wanted to marry them. But Johnny Depp's only difference was he had a lot of money, and that's what attracted Amber Heard. So when they got married, what she wanted to do was to get rid of Johnny Depp and get a lot of money. So that's just part of my analysis of this whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp problem. Now, Amber Heard was very smart in that she's using a lot of Botox during this court trial. So she is not reacting facially to any of the testimony. She has this very stoic, pasted on look from Botox. And Johnny Depp could have done that and really kept himself a little bit more non-reactive to the testimony. I would like Johnny Depp to not ball his fist up in front of him when people are talking, and I would like him to stop chewing and stop laughing during the testimonies. It shows he's a little bit too lighthearted for the topics that are being discussed. But I think he just does that out of nervousness, out of habit, whatever. But I also want Johnny Depp to stop referring to Amber Heard as a beautiful creature. I don't like the word creature, and I think it shows that he was awestruck by her beauty, but he needs to stop using the word creature. I will end this right here, and we can discuss this further at another time. Bye. Please like and subscribe.